Hello, my name's Mark Lamont. I've not long ago been appointed the Information Resource Manager at IPWEAQ in Brisbane, and today I've been asked to just give you a quick introduction and walk through our Knowledge Centre. IPWEAQ's Knowledge Centre is essentially an information repository of articles, of podcasts, of images from our conferences, all sorts of documents, anything that is going to be of relevance to public works engineering throughout Queensland and to our members and affiliates of the organisation. We've organised it essentially on the principle of ease of access for the user. So we've tried to put items in places where they're going to be most quickly and usefully found by people who are using the resource. But still, there are some technical things that you need to know that with practice are very simple. But there are 4 layers to where an item can be found on the Knowledge Centre. The top level category is we've called a community, and so that's the first thing that you see when you open up the Knowledge Centre page, which is what you can see in front of you on the screen. Within that, we have sub-communities. Within those sub-communities, there are collections. And within those collections, there are the specific items. So when you need an item, let's say it's an image from a conference that you needed to use for something, you'll need to go through at least some combination of those 4 layers to find that item. Not all the time. Some are much more simple and there'll be a 2-step process, but some are more complex, like the Brisbane State Conference, and they need to utilise all 4 layers to find that item. So if I can show you in practice a bit of that, if we just scroll down the page on your left-hand side, you'll see a list. All of those headings in that list, conferences and events, feature articles from the Engineering Public Works Journal, all of those are communities. They're the top level category in your search. If we click on one of those, the top one is called Conferences and Events. You'll see that that community is divided into sub-communities. In this case, each sub-community represents a specific conference. So that top one there is the state conference that was held in Brisbane at the end of last year. The one below it is the Southwestern Queensland branch conference that was held at Dalby just in the last couple of weeks. If we click on that, for example, so that we go further into the centre, you'll see that that sub-community is divided into 4 collections, and within those collections is the items you're going to be looking for. So in this case, we've got a collection of the images, which is where you go and find that photograph I was talking about, of articles arising out of the conference, of PowerPoint presentations, and of podcasts. If we go to, say, PowerPoint presentations, so that we can go into the last layer, there's a list of all the items within that collection. So that's how you find individual items. We're looking, for example, for the top one, performance-based standards in heavy vehicle law in Australia. We go into that, and in the file section is your final step. You click on that, and that will bring up that PowerPoint. So if you were at the conference and found this particularly interesting, you can look to that PowerPoint and go through it again at your leisure. Or if you missed the conference and wanted to pick up on some of the things that were delivered there, that's another good reason to use it. So if I pop out of that full screen for a moment and take us back home, that takes us firstly back to exactly where we were. Now, rather than click on our home button all the time and then have to go through those layers again, this little blue rectangle here provides us with a way to get back through the layers. So the home page in the rectangle is called IPWEAQ e-Resources. The sub-community within that is Conferences and Events. We want to go back to that collection, which is the Dalby Conference. So we click on that, and that takes us back to those 4 collections within that sub-community I was talking about. We thought that PowerPoint was incredibly informative. We want to hear the whole presentation, so we can click on podcast, scroll down through our list of items again, and at the top in the same place is that podcast. If we click on that, you click on your file in the items, and that will download that podcast for you in 20 or 30 seconds, and then you can watch that as you browse the PowerPoint display that you've already looked at. Let's go back home again. So we hit on the home page, and that takes us to what you will see as soon as you enter the Knowledge Centre. It's being a bit slow for me. Here we are back at the home page. So we've been into conferences and events, we've looked at sub-communities, collections, and we found some items in there that were of interest. If we want to have a look at a simpler community that don't have all of those layers, something more technical like drainage and water quality drawings, here for example, will do that. So that's a community, we click into that. We've eliminated the sub-community so that there are less steps to find the item. Straight into the 6 or 7 collections there within that community, and we'll just click on one of those by a retention. I can see there are 9 items in that collection, and that takes us to those items. So again, once you click on that, it will take you to that last page, which lists all of the cataloguing information, which is essential. So you do have to click on your file, and that will open up the item you're looking for. And that's one of the technical drawings that you can look at by accessing the Knowledge Centre. So if we just go back home again, just so you can see the process of starting from the home page each time. And so we're back to that, scrolling away through all of our different communities, so you can find anything that might be of interest to you. We have a history community at the moment that's got a nice book on a comprehensive telling of the history of public works in Queensland. We have a media community where we're uploading articles of relevance from all of the national daily newspapers, the major city newspapers, and they'll only be there temporarily for 3 or 4 weeks until their relevance starts to fade and new ones will replace them. So we'll scan the papers every day and put things there that would be of interest to our users. There are a number of ways to catalogue any particular item. So if we look at something like the International Study Tours report, the element that unites the items within that is self-explanatory because of its title. So all of those items are reports from people who have won a scholarship to go overseas and study, have a look at how public works engineering is functioning in other countries and come back and report to us on what's going on there. So that's the element that unites all of the items in that community. But all those items, of course, could be of relevance to someone searching by their subject matter. And so no item is restricted to any one community or any one collection. So you'll find the same item in a couple of collections, one in the study tours and one in a subject area that's more pertinent to what that study tour was on in particular. So that's one way to use the Knowledge Centre as a kind of casual scrolling through to have a look of things of interest and find what you want. Another way to do it is if you have a more specific target in mind. So, for example, one item that I've recently put into the Knowledge Centre was by Andrew Ryan, an article called Global Sustainable Practices and Innovation in Public Works. So you can search that by a number of methods. Just like in any traditional library, you can search it by its issue date, its author, its title, subject. If you click on any of those, let's do author. That will present you with a list of all of the authors on the Knowledge Centre. You can go through and find Andrew, click on him, and you'll get everything that he's written. Again, that's if you're not pressed for time. If you want to search most quickly, we've provided this space, centre, top of the Knowledge Centre, called Search DSpace, where you can just search by title, subject, or author. Because the title's long, I think we'll just search by author, put in Andrew Ryan. There he is in the drop-down menu. Click on that, and there's every item on the Knowledge Centre that Andrew's written, contributed to, or where he's a major subject of an article that somebody else has written, or some of his ideas are discussed within that article. And there's those that exact article we were looking for there. So you just click on that. Again, scroll down to your file, click on that, and that will bring up the article. So it becomes very easy once you've used it a few times. It's just one of those things that take a little bit of practice. If we go back home again, back to the search space, I'll just open up our screen a little. So yeah, that can take us to the article by Andrew, the podcast by Andrew, and might even send you off onto some other articles he's written. But that's if you know the author or the title of the article you're looking for. If you don't, but have an interest in that subject area, well, you can search it by subject as well. So it's called Global Sustainable Practices. So if we search for globalization in the drop-down menu, that'll search the Knowledge Centre and bring us every article that has globalisation as a central theme to it. In this case, 43 items about globalisation. We might want to have a look at one of the other key search terms, sustainable practice in this instance, and that'll do the same. So it'll search through, and that's delivered us 45 items. So we've got nearly 90 items searching between globalisation and sustainable practice. If we want to limit it so that we've got fewer hits and can get to more specifically what our research is about, you just combine them. You don't need any punctuation of it, just globalisation and sustainable practice. You put that in as a search term, and that will look for articles that have both of those ideas as a central idea, and that limits it, cuts it in half to about 21 articles that you can find with both of those ideas in them. And of course you can keep doing that and narrowing your search with whatever subject matter you might want to. So that's essentially how it's going to work. We envisage it as a very community-based knowledge centre, so we're looking for input from our users and our affiliates. So we're thinking if people in any branches of IPWEAQ or people who aren't directly connected to a branch but members of the organisation, we're very happy to hear any ideas that you have, any feedback about maybe communities that you think should be there and some items that should be within those communities. And it's probable that we will create a space on the Knowledge Centre itself so that you can make contributions and suggestions there, and then we can get back to you and say, let's go ahead with that community and get some advice from you, so that it's a very shared resource, and it's one that has no limit really. It'll be expanding and ongoing. We hope that you all use it and very much enjoy using it, and thank you for listening to me today for that little introduction.